Where's the table? Oh, it's there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. This morning we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, Kapila's Instructions on Devotional Service, Text 6. Svadishyanam ekadeshe Svadishyanam ekadeshe Manasa pranadaranam Manasa pranadaranam Vaikuntha lila vidyanam Vaikuntha lila vidyanam Samadhanam tatatmanaha Samadhanam tatatmanaha Svadishyanam ekadeshe Manasa pranadaranam Vaikuntha lila vidyanam Samadhanam tatatmanaha Tatatmanaha Svadhishnayam ekadeshe Tatatmanaha Samadhanam tatatmanaha Svadishyanam ekadeshe Manasa pranadaranam Vaikuntha lila vidyanam Samadhanam tatatmanaha. Okay, word to word. Svadishyanam, within the vital air circles. Ekadeshe, in one spot. Manasa, with the mind. Prana, the vital air. Dharanam, fixing. Vaikuntha lila, on the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhidyanam, concentration. Samadhanam, samadhi. Tata, thus. Atmanaha, of the mind. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayachan the Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called samadhi or samadhana of the mind. Purport. There are 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body. The first circle is within the belly, the second circle is in the area of the heart, the third is in the area of the lungs, the fourth is on the palate, the fifth is between the eyebrows, and the highest, the 6th circle, is above the brain. One has to fix his mind on the circulation of the vital air and thus think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It is never mentioned that one should concentrate on the impersonal or void. It is clearly stated, Vaikuntha Lila, Lila means pastimes. Unless the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, has transcendental activities, where is the scope for thinking of these pastimes? It is through the process of devotional service, chanting and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that one can achieve this concentration. As described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord appears and disappears according to his relationships with different devotees. The Vedic literatures contain many narrations of the Lord's pastimes, including the Battle of Kurukshetra, and historical facts relating to the life and precepts of devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and Ambarish Maharaj. One need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Then he will be in Samadhi. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state. It is the state achieved when the mind is virtually absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanatimrandasya Gnanjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadate Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sakrachatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakan Vitamshta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gauranga Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sate Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha Kalpadurubhishcha Kripa Sindhyub Evacha Patitanam Pamanebhya Vaishnavebhya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadharam Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming this morning. So can you turn on up the volume a little bit? Turn it up. So, we are hearing here how Lord Kapila Dev is instructing his mother Devahuti, and obviously in devotional service, but as His Grace Prahladananda Prabhu already described more elaborately some days ago, that for her, he is specifically describing here to do devotional service externally in the form of Ashtanga Yoga. Because first of all, most importantly, she was fully qualified to do it. It appears from her early childhood actually, and secondly also the age. It was we know Lord Kapila Devi appeared in Satya Yuga, which was the age of performing meditation in where practically everyone was Paramahamsa. There was no Varnashram Dharma as we know it from other ages. And but so then for us, these descriptions we hear quite a bit about them even in Bhagavad Gita, and then of course more often so in Bhagavatam. Like even, for example, Dhruva Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada mentions him in the purport. He also, we know, he's celebrated as a great devotee, giving us a lot of inspiration, showing that even as a child he was able, with his great determination, by following sincerely the instructions of his spiritual master Narada Muni, to attain the Supreme Lord within 6 months. And but actually externally also there, we know he also performed similarly at the Ashtanga Yoga, doing severe austerities. How he fasted more and more and intensified his meditation on the Supreme Lord. And but so for us, obviously, we know we cannot practice this for us it's greatly simplified by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. But still it's also another way of showing us how, like, helping us to more deeply appreciate actually the greatness of devotional service. Because otherwise, one trap is that even though, on the one hand we know, at least theoretically, that we hear, yes, Bhakti Yoga is the topmost. Krishna explains all the different forms of yoga in Bhagavad Gita, and so that we know the goal is much greater, and the process is much more effective, and everything. But then still, because the paradox is because it is so simple in its practice, then we might still take it cheaply. That's just through our conditioning, how so-called naturally we would approach bhakti. That it's apparently the greatest, but still, what's the big deal? We come here to the temple, we bow down to the Lord, see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is apparently right here in front of us, making themselves visible, and the holy name is also non-different from Him, and then we have Jnanamrita there, easily to take, and so many things, and we hear and can read Srimad Bhagavatam and the other scriptures so easily at any time. And Krishna Prasadam we can get so easily, which is also non-different from Krishna. So all of that, it just seems too simple to be that. So that is the topmost yoga. But then, so to better appreciate that and not take it cheaply and commit offense after offense, and thus not being able to actually get the full benefit, not being able to make quick progress. For that, we need to appreciate it better, and thus with a grateful heart engage in whatever devotional service, be in our sadhana or in practical devotional service. So and so that is one aspect, to understand the other processes of how difficult it is to perform these, and how and also that, yes, from those processes also you get so much that you already get much greater goals if you would be able to perform them properly than what any ordinary person in this material, at least in this planet right now, is able to achieve. Where we see that we are so ignorant in this Kali Yuga that all the goals that we have is some completely flickering goal, and which is within this one lifetime only. No matter how rich you are, no matter what you have, what you achieve, what degree, what position, it's all finished with this one lifetime. Whereas these processes, even karma kanda, we know, can give us elevation to the heavenly planets, of which people at large are ignorant as well. So even within material happiness, and then what to speak of then, like Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, here you can attain liberation from this material world, at least for a long time. You might fall back unless you eventually realize Bhakti Yoga, but still, and of course, and we know also in this universe above the heavenly planets there's still 4 planetary systems which are way beyond even the heavenly planets, and they're actually, the people in general, they are engaged fully in meditation, like similar what we hear about in this section of the Bhagavatam. And generally those living beings, those great sages and yogis, they do eventually attain perfection, but in a very long winding process. We hear that also in Bhagavatam, that they gradually rise up to Satyaloka, the planet of Lord Brahma, and there then after Lord Brahma's lifetime, then they go back to Godhead. And we know that Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion and 40 billion years, of calculated to our earthly years. So we need to, at least it is greatly helpful to try to understand also to some extend those other processes to appreciate them and then to appreciate how much greater bhakti is. Like, cause, yeah, as we hear in today's verse, that there's those 6 chakras, and you're supposed to fix the vital layer in the mind in one of those chakras, and then gradually you rise up, and then through the topmost is, I think, Brahmarandra called, right? I don't know, it's mentioned here. From which you then, in full concentration, the yogi is able to consciously push out the soul from the body, and then attain a higher destination. Potentially even the spiritual world, if he meditates fully on the super soul and has attained some devotion through that process, or else to some other higher destination. And we, like Krishna explains that in Bhagavad Gita in 8th chapter, how, but then that also, if he's not a devotee, then that also depends on the time and other circumstances, how high he goes. Otherwise he just attains some, like the moon or some other heavenly planet. So, yeah, basically, because that's the thing we know and we hear it many times, that yes, so in our process, especially by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we are given everything actually immediately in terms of the full program, the full potential to practice, to the knowledge. Theoretically it's there, so everything is there, but it's then the actual thing to do is then to somehow or other realize it more and more, to uncover the treasure. And like one thing I heard yesterday I was listening to, I don't know if some of you have heard this, like His Holiness Keshava Bharati Maharaj, he has been reading Srila Prabhupada's books aloud and together with other devotees, and recording that. So on YouTube there's this channel, I think it's called Daily Reading of Srila Prabhupada's book, something like that. And I think meanwhile practically all of the books are up there. So I've been listening to it sometimes, and yesterday I heard Maharaj mentioning how, if like, I don't know how many times we think about it, that like it's something we know, but whether we actually appreciate that. Maharaj was saying that actually every one of us has the potential to create a universe, because as we know, even Lord Brahma, generally, he's a jiva, and it's mentioned even all of us in the first lifetime we were a Lord Brahma. So which means the tiny infinitesimal soul has this potential to obviously secondarily create, to be like the engineer, but still, which means that Maharaj was explaining that being in our fallen condition means that we have been pushed down, pressed down by material nature so much. We have allowed ourselves to become so degraded. And like my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Timrita Swami Maharaj, he explains that also sometimes, that yes, we know that we have imperfect senses, and therefore we are not able to realize Krishna by our own endeavors. That's why one of his names is Adokshacha, beyond our sense perception. But Guru Maharaj explains that this mean it also indicates, I don't remember the exact how technically it relates to it. I think Adokshacha also means something like the one who pushes others down. But in any case, Guru Maharaj was explaining that it also means that we not only are our senses imperfect to actually be able to realize transcendental knowledge, to realize Krishna, but also Krishna has his illusory potency which pushes us down. No matter how so-called perfect our senses might somehow or other might be. Anyway, there's the second aspect as well. He has his energy which keeps those who are not qualified, who are not surrendered in full love to him, who keeps them away. So that shows how how much dependent we are, and how how amazing then it is if when Krishna reveals himself to us. And so in terms of like talking that we understand that we have the potential to actually, like Lord Brahma, create a universe, do all those amazing things, even as a jiva, even in this material world. So that shows us, again, how great devotional service is, because then we know that same Lord Brahma, he realizes, in for example in the Brahma Vimohan Lila, discussed it before, that in fact whatever devotional service he is doing and being empowered by Krishna, it doesn't stand any comparison to the devotional service that the inhabitants of Vrindavan do. Just like even, and not only, we know, yes, of course, the gopis are the topmost devotees, but even a cow licking Krishna in full transcendental love, their devotional service is incomparably greater than that of Lord Brahma, which he himself realized and admitted. There's like one beautiful verse he sings there in his prayers to Lord Krishna, which goes, Aho titanya vrachagoramanya stanyam ritam pitamati vate muda yasam pipovat sataratmachatmanam yatriptre yatyapina chalamat varaha. Where Lord Brahma calls out in ecstasy, actually, of having gotten this mercy by Lord Krishna after having done his mistake of trying to, obviously, as you know, steal the gopas and the calves from Krishna, testing his potency. So that's one symptom of devotees, that they feel great pleasure when they realize that they are transcendentally defeated by another devotee, or in this case by Krishna himself. Also, like Lord Shiva, we see that in the pastime with Mohini Murti, that he, although apparently got humiliated in front of all his followers and all of that, but then he felt great ecstasy, and how great is my master, he can bewilder even me. And so similarly, Lord Brahma, he feels great ecstasy, saying, Aho Atitanya, how greatly fortunate are these Rajago Ramanya, these cows and the women Ramanya of Vrindavan. For they stanyamritam pitamati vatemuda, their breast milk means has been personally drunk by Vatsarat Yasam vipo Vatsataratmachatmana, has been drunk personally by Krishna himself, who has taken the form of the calves and the cowherd boys. And so that is so much greater, and so Krishna Ativa Temuda, he took so much pleasure in that, so much more pleasure than what even until now, since creation, all the great Vedic sacrifices that have been performed, Yatriptara Yadyapi, until now, Nachalam Advaraha, they were insufficient in comparison in being able to satisfy the Lord, as simply his drinking the milk of the cows and of the cowherd women. So those things help us to appreciate that how inconceivably great is this devotional service. Like last time we discussed a bit from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, how he was explaining how inconceivable Krishna is, and his loving reciprocations with his devotees, and he was quoting also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in telling Rupa Goswami about some of those amazing things that Mahaprabhu tells at the start that he's gonna explain. Just a particle of a drop of this unlimited ocean of Krishna and of devotional service, but then such a drop that it can drown the whole universe in love of Godhead. And one thing I think I forgot to mention there is, Maharaj explained that one way, and because we also said that it said that Anantashesh, since time immemorial, he has been glorifying the Supreme Lord, but even in one day of Brahma, he cannot even fully describe the pastimes that Krishna or Mahaprabhu performs in one day only. And so Maharaji was explaining one way to understand it a bit better is that as actually we talked about it, but I didn't mention it like that. The pastimes of the Lord, they can be seen or appreciated from so many different angles. And in fact, like, you know, every single living entity, every devotee is able to experience the Lord in a unique way. Like we said, like those famous examples of how the Lord is able to give every devotee the feeling that he's personally looking just at him, and those kind of things. So they also show that actually, it is the bhakti. It is unique for every devotee. Even, of course, many things are in common, but then still it is unique. And so that is also one way of how to appreciate how his pastimes can never be fully explained. And yeah, so now I just wanted to talk a bit about what I read in the last 2 days, from helping us to better appreciate again how we know, as we discussed last time, that ultimately this, for example, also here, this whole Sankhya Yoga of Lord Kapiladev instructing to Madhadeva Huti is, even though there's so many technical details and everything, at the end it all simply is here to help us to actually really realize that, yes, my Lord, I'm yours, I'm fully surrendered at your lotus feet, and whatever you desire, I want to do that. And one nice example of how we approach the Lord, how to surrender to the Lord, is exhibited by the 20,000, I think, and 800 kings which were imprisoned by Jarasandha, and which the Lord then came to rescue. So there the pastime goes that, like last time we discussed about the queens, so now we can briefly talk about the kings, which comes a bit later than in. So, because how it goes is in chapter 70 of the 10th canto. It's called, I think, something like Krishna's daily activities. So it starts off with, I think, first it's described how in the early morning the queens, who we know in the 16,108 balances where Krishna simultaneously is with every queen, they, upon hearing the rooster, the queens, actually it's described, they're cursing the roosters because they know that, oh, now Krishna is gonna wake up and he's gonna dutifully perform all the morning rituals and activities, so he's gonna leave me, because they all lie in bed being embraced by Krishna. And actually then it's also described in detail how this sequence goes, how the first the fragrance of the parijata flowers awakens the bees, and then their buzzing then awakens actually the roosters, and so then from that onwards Krishna and all the other inhabitants of Dwarka, they arise, and then it's quite in detail described everything. Like also that is amazing, like how we might take it, one chapter Krishna's daily activities, but actually again, like how amazing is it that so easily we are given such detailed descriptions of, like, if we were not here we could never imagine that, it's just, there's a book like that you can just open and read what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is doing in his routine activities. So it's nicely described how he does all of Achaman and all of these things, meditates on himself, of course takes bath, chants Gayatri, gives charity to the Brahmanas, and so many things, all nicely described. And so then at one point the description reaches the point of, then first of all he goes to the Sudharma assembly hall, and it's described there then all the Krishnas, So say they all go there, and then at the gate they merge into one person, which is inconceivable anyway, only one person. And so then, when Krishna, and then it's described how then he's glorified there always by different singers and everyone. And then, but then it comes to the point that one day there was one person came to that assembly hall who hasn't been there before, and he's a messenger sent by those imprisoned kings, and so he relates to them, their message, which is prayers in full surrender. And what stands out there is that those kings, even though they admit that yes, we are greatly disturbed, suffering here at the hands of Jarasandha, this cruel king, and so helplessly we seek your refuge. But at the same time, they do somehow or other, they got Krishna's mercy. So they were all pious kings, to some extent at least devotee kings apparently before as well. Because by the Lord's mercy, they do realize that actually the problem is not Jarasandha, but he's simply the deliverer of our karma. Rather, the real problem is just that we had been illusioned to thinking ourselves as great kings here. We fought with each other, trying to gain more power and wealth. And but actually, it is your mercy, O Lord, that you sent this Jarasandha to imprison us and torture us, and so they rather pray that, O Lord, we now fully surrender to your lotus feet, knowing that the actual problem is that we are stuck in this material existence, that we are under your illusory potency, thinking ourselves as king and thinking ourselves happy separately from you. So that they exemplify very nicely how to approach the Lord there. And so then when after the messenger goes, then Krishna and his associates there, they immediately discuss how to attack Jarasandha, who we know was such a powerful king there. He had such great army that previously I think we discussed a bit also how he had attacked Krishna for 17 times, and each time was Krishna annihilated his complete army, which consisted, I think, of 21 Akshahinis or something like that, which is like amazingly great number of soldiers and chariots and elephants and everything. So, as we know, he completely annihilated his army, leaving only him to survive. And then Jarasandha, the first time, then he would have become despondent and given up, taken to take to austerities. But then he got encouraged by his other demoniac king's followers, and then he again and again attacked Krishna in the same way and got defeated. And then we know that in the 18th time, Krishna did something different, because at that time Kalayavana also came, another powerful demonic king, and so then Krishna apparently he ran away, and he allowed Jarasandha then to believe that he actually defeated him. We discussed briefly that how then at one point Krishna and Balaram, they were fled, and then they climbed up that mountain, Pravarshana, and Jarasandha set the mountain ablaze, not finding them, because they jumped off the mountain again. And so, it's described then in purport nicely how you can see there very clearly how much fun Krishna and Balaram must have had there with this kind of comical king. I don't remember how exactly the words are used there. It's very nice purport how this king who's just never to give up, and then even thinks that he has defeated them and even killed them. So and so that Jarasandha. So where were we? oh yeah, so how they discuss to defeat it, to attack him and to defeat him. And so then at one point Narada Muni comes in there, and Krishna glorifies him that, oh, you great sage, you travel all over the universe, so you know about everything. So it's as if Krishna wouldn't know. And so then Krishna directly asks him, kindly tell us about what the Pandavas are up to at the moment. And so then, because actually obviously Krishna knows, because Narada Muni tells him that yes, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he wants to perform this Rajasuya Yajna, and so kindly also attend to that. And then they are left in the puzzle apparently of whether to go, what to attend to first, whether to go to the Rajasuya sacrifice or whether to rescue the kings. And I'll just cut it a bit short. That one nice thing mentioned there is that I'm on the wrong side. That obviously, first of all, we know then Krishna he wants to give the credit to his pure devotee Uddhava to resolve that. So he asks Uddhava what to do in that situation, and he then tells them that actually, to be able to do the Rajasuya Yajna, that king needs to be the emperor of the whole world. All the other kings need to be subordinate to him. So if you could do that, then automatically anyway you have to defeat Jarasandha as well. And it's mentioned all the senior Yadu assembled members there, they appreciated Uddhava's statement, but the younger ones didn't, because they were still like for example Aniruddha, Krishna's grandson, they were still so eager just to go and fight Jarasandha's army. Because Uddhava also, he explained immediately how to defeat then Jarasandha. He said that he's, even though such a great demon, he's somehow or other, he's very dedicated to Brahminical culture. So if you go there disguised as Brahmanas, Krishna, Arjuna and Bhima, then you should beg a fight, and Bhima is and also he mentioned that actually only Bhima is the one who has the strength equal to Jarasandha to fight Jarasandha. So in that way he also immediately cautioned the other members that don't think about just attacking Jarasandha, he's too strong for you. And of course it's all pastime, because we know like Aniruddha, Pradyumna, for example, they are also Vishnu Tattva from the Chatavyuha. And so he mentioned that, and he said that and you should beg a fight in a dual fight just between Jarasandha and Bhima, so that you don't need to bother about his huge army. And so the young Yadu members like Aniruddha, they were actually still so eager to just fight, so they didn't appreciate it's mentioned. So just running out of time, what else can we tell? That one other nice thing there then is, I just want to bring out that how then it's mentioned, so because still we might think, which means that Krishna is doing both, killing Jarasandha and then attending the Rajasuya. But what it actually meant is that Krishna, first he then traveled to Indraprastha, to the Pandavas. And not only did he go there quickly to just, tell them, I will come to your yajna, but for that, Maharaj Yudhishthira, you need to send out all the your brothers, your armies, to conquer all the kings. And the most powerful one is Jarasandha, so I'll deal with him quickly. Let me go there, we'll kill him, and then we can do the yajna. But no, again, Krishna, like similar, we discussed it last time with the Brahmana messenger sent by Queen Rukmini, how much time Krishna took to nicely receive him and everything, not showing any anxiety of time pressure. So similarly here also again, which we might think that, so it's kind of cruel from Krishna towards those kings. They already expressed their surrender, sent it in through that messenger, and they're greatly suffering there. It's mentioned they were like emaciated and everything, and then Krishna should go there immediately, right? But no, Krishna, he fully understands obviously that we are the soul, and so he fully understands what is our real benefit. And so for those kings, he let them suffer for quite some more time, so that they would more and more fully realize his mercy, which they did. And so, because he ended up going to Hastinapur. Also, it's nicely described there that how, and not just him, but he, obviously he himself surrounded by his army, and it's also described there nicely there how they, just read it quickly. He was surrounded on all sides by a fierce personal guard, and similar then also the wives along with the children were all carried on golden palanquins, and they also were surrounded on all sides by soldiers carrying swords and shields. So, I was thinking that like, if you read that section, it's like you can very nicely envision what nice of a scene those kind of pastimes of Krishna must have been, and where he plays the role of a king or a prince. That how much pomp, like we know that to little extent from some movies, like from medieval movies or whatever, but like how amazing the real thing would be in those pastimes, like how Krishna was traveling from one place to another, like here, and even though we know he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unlimitedly powerful, his queens are his internal potency, even above Lakshmi Devi. So they don't need protection, but then they're all protected by so many soldiers very carefully, and everything. And so in that way, yeah, he traveled there, and then Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was in great ecstasy to receive him. He we know Krishna considers him as superior in terms of, because of his age. So Maharaj Yudhishthira embraced Krishna, broke out in full tears of love, and it's mentioned his whole body shook in ecstasy. And similarly, also with Bhima, because which again shows us how bhakti is beyond anything external considerations. Like we know Bhima, as we know Uddhava said that he's the only one who can defeat Jarasandha, because both of them are described as being as powerful as 10,000 elephants. And but even this mighty warrior Bhima, when he saw Krishna, he also embraced Krishna, and it mentioned his eyes were also brimming with tears. He laughed with joy and embraced his maternal cousin Krishna. So and then Arjuna, we know he's equal with Krishna. He tried to bow down, but Krishna didn't allow him to bow down. He also raised him up, embraced Arjuna, and of course Nakula Sahadeva. They are in the pastime also as juniors, so they did bow down to Krishna. And then further on, it's mentioned even when Maharaj Yudhishthira then took Krishna into his palace, then still Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was so overwhelmed by joy and ecstasy that he completely, even though he's Dharmaraj, like he perfectly knows not only rules and regulations of devotional service, but also everything of Varnashram Dharma perfectly, on any kind of Dharma. But he completely forgot actually how to properly worship Krishna, all the rituals. And so, and then further on, then we know in the chambers all the women were there, like Kunti Maharani. She then also welcomed Krishna, and she told Draupadi to worship all of Krishna's queens as well. And so then eventually we know then Krishna, and still then Maharaj Yudhishthira and Krishna, they don't immediately then, even after all of that, they don't immediately talk about, okay, so that's what's up here, I want to do that sacrifice here, there's this Jarasandha, how are we going to do that? No, it's mentioned, Krishna spent there several months actually. And during that course, for example, he there's that pastime where he, like it's mentioned, Prabhupada in Krishna book, he mentions that they were, that for several months, and during his stay he enjoyed strolling here and there. And on his chariot, and so he used to drive on the chariots along with Arjuna, the soldiers and other followers. So he was just enjoying with his retinue, going here and there, And one time it's mentioned, then Krishna and Arjuna, they went in the Khandava forest, where upon the request of Agnidev, allowed him to burn that forest for his digestion. And then there was this, in that forest there was this Maya Danava, this demon, whom they saved then, and who then, in his being grateful for them, then built this amazing assembly house for the Pandavas, in which then Duryodhana got bewildered later on. So yeah, so many things happened then before even Krishna talking about what to speak of, then going and doing what was needed in terms of dealing with Jarasandha, which we know he did tell, like Jarasandha and Bhimasena, it's mentioned they end up actually fighting for 28 days because they were completely equal in the strength, and then on the 28th day Krishna showed him by tearing apart a small twig, how to kill Jarasandha. It's very graphically described there also. Actually I just wanted to quickly mention also, it's so nice how Krishna, as disguising themselves as brahmanas when they approach Jarasandha, how he then talks to Jarasandha. Like again, how much fun Krishna must have, being the all-powerful personality of Godhead, but apparently having to take on such tactics to cheat and defeat this demonic king. So Krishna, Arjuna and Bhima, they said to Jarasandha, "O king," and remember that king is like amazing personality. On the one hand, he's like most demoniac, that actually it's mentioned, the Acharyas, I think Vishwanath Thakur explained that those kings, he imprisoned them and he planned, it was I think 20,800, he planned altogether to get to 50,000, which he then wanted to offer to Lord Shiva, killing all of them as a sacrifice to please Lord Shiva. So imagine how demoniac. But then at the same time, that king was very devoted to Brahminical culture, somehow or other. And that king was defeated so many times by Krishna before and made fun of. So what Krishna tells to Jarasandha and Arjuna and Bhima is that, "O king, know us to be needy guests who have come to you from afar. We wish all good unto you. Please grant us whatever we desire. What can the tolerant not bear? What will the wicked not do? What will the generous not give in charity? And who will those of equal volition see as an outsider?" And it's very nicely explained in the purport there, how he actually, by saying all those things, he defeats whatever Jarasandha might think, why he might not be able to just say straight away that, "Yes, I'll give whatever you ask." Because without even knowing that someone is saying, imagine someone coming to you, that please give me, but you don't even say what you say, please give me whatever I'm gonna ask from you. How hard that would be. But so we don't have time now to go through, but all of these things, they defeat whatever considerations he might have. And then further he says, "He indeed is to be censured and pitied, who though able to do so, fails to achieve with his temporary body the lasting fame glorified by great saints." And then he gives many examples in history of those who lasting fame means, he refers there to actually material things. Because we know, other than fame as a devotee, nothing is lasting. But anyway, so yeah, it's so nice how, and then, I'll just end with the point. It's mentioned Jarasandha, then he laughs out loud, and he feels a great inner satisfaction of seeing, these apparently wanting to think themselves as greatly powerful warriors, but here they are having to humiliate them so much that they have to come disguised as brahmanas to beg for a fight from me. And so all these pastimes, like we read in the purport, that a real yogi meditates on the Lord's pastimes, and obviously, especially in the 10th canto, it's especially easy to appreciate how how much fun Krishna has with his devotees, and how the real fun is there, and real love and happiness. Okay, thank you so much. Any question? Yes, please.
Interestingly, why there's no mention of air circulation from the nose among the 6 circles of vital air circulations within the body? I mean, Srila Prabhupada mentioned 6 types from the belly, from the heart, between the eyebrows, on top of the brain.
Well, he doesn't refer to the... It's not talking about the gross air circulation which we do. We breathe in air to get oxygen. It's talking about the chakras, right? So, so there's gross air which we breathe to get oxygen, and then there's explained like what we hear here about. It's a more subtle form of air, where there's those chakras and everything. I don't know really technical details, but that's the general understanding.
And the other word is the word Vaikuntha in Vaikuntha Leela.
Yeah.
Is that anything to do with the Vaikuntha Loka, or is it just like a generic word?
Well, you can take it in both ways, because Vaikuntha, we know, you can take it as Vaikuntha means free of misery, so as being the spiritual world in contrast to the material world. But then, I guess at the same time, we know that generally in Ashtanga Yoga they meditate on the super soul, so on a form of Vishnu, not on Krishna. So in that way, it could refer, but it's not explained here, so it's not much use in speculating about it. But another way we can appreciate. Okay, thank you so much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.